So we must be on a roll today, and that Jane, who I said sounded like Jean actually on the last video, has encouraged me to do these videos. And so she asked me a question about praying together for Jerusalem on Sunday. So I've written my thoughts, which are what I'm going to read. So the title of it was Messianic Messages of Christmas and Hanukkah, Divisive or Inclusive. So praying together in Jerusalem is an interfaith group that has been meeting for some time in Jerusalem. I got to know them when I visited Jerusalem about 3 years ago through the summer school, a leaflet, then discovered that there was an event once a month. With COVID, they made it available on Zoom, which meant that people like me in England and elsewhere in the world could join. And so they've continued that ever since. And I join when I can. It happened to be on a Sunday this month. And I've been to the summer school just this year in Jerusalem. So, Messianic Messages of Christmas and Hanukkah, Divisive or Inclusive. So, as I said, I attended the Zoom meeting on Sunday with that title. There were two speakers, two from the Jewish faith and two from the Christian faith. Curiously, there was a Byzantine priest, and you might wonder what a Byzantine priest is, as I do. But when you go to somewhere like Jerusalem, you discover lots of different types of Christianity. So Byzantine is a term that's used by essentially Orthodox Christians who accept the Pope as head of the church. So they're kind of Orthodox Catholics. They're not Orthodox, they're Catholic Orthodox. It gets confusing, doesn't it? And there are many different varieties, such as the Syriac Orthodox, I think, or Catholic, the Chaldean Orthodox, the Syriac. Did I say Syriac? I did say Syriac. I'm showing off now, so I better stop. Anyway, it's a very interesting story, and it causes its own division, obviously, between Orthodox Christians and Catholic Orthodox. The sound wasn't great on the Zoom, and nor was my attention. But listening to the discussion, it prompted me to think that for Jews there is already an idea of how the Messiah may be, given Jesus claim to be the Messiah. Well, what I mean by that is that the life of Jesus at least gives an example of someone who claimed to be the Messiah and what happens next. Now, of course, people will know that there are many Messiahs, and indeed there continue probably to be Messiahs and people claiming to be Messiahs. I don't know the Jewish world enough to know who may be currently claiming to be the Messiah. I mean, you may even get that within Christianity, people claiming to be the Messiah. I better not get digressed because I've got different names going through my head. So when I said that, is we got the example of what happens when someone claims to be the Messiah, what happens next. But then this got me thinking, well, why didn't he fit the criteria of the Messiah? And then I'm thinking, which bits did he not meet of the criteria? And then that reminds me that this is what interfaith dialogue does. It brings us back to the basic questions of our own faith. And it seems to me that a lot of us, including me, of course, we can get sophisticated, although I'm not so good at sophistication. And we actually don't sort out the fundamentals. But perhaps that's why we need to dialogue at an interfaith level, to ask questions that we've assumed we know, which we may not have done, which we may not. So there was talk of what vision of a Messiah Jewish people have, one who is a ruler, or one who is in the way of peace, or the many that would fit in between. And again, I couldn't help think, well, Jesus and his believers tell us what happens with those who are hailed the Messiah. You get as many different versions as people create. You get the military leader, and I think we've seen that in the Crusades, Christian Crusades. that's I guess the big one. But there's been many examples of Christians killing not just the other, but killing each other. And you get the peacemaker, and you get everything in between. So the peacemaker, you think of the Crusades, against the Albigensian Crusade, which was against the Cathars in what's now the Languedoc region of France. They were peacemakers, Christians, but not Catholic, not Roman Catholic Christians. And when I discovered that, it was a crusade I didn't even know existed, and they were totally wiped out. And that was Christian against Christian. And so then this gets us, well, what's our own idea of the Messiah? What do we think the Messiah would be? Or if we already believe in Jesus as the Messiah, well, what do we believe about Jesus? Because Christian history, as said, interprets Jesus and the vision of the Messiah in so many different ways, which we all know. The question I didn't get to ask, if I would have got to ask, it would have been, will the Messiah stay or go? So even this Jewish Messiah who hasn't yet come, will he stay or go? What I mean is, does he have to be a he? Is he coming for good? My hand's getting sore holding this camera. Or like Jesus, will he give a glimpse of who he is and his kingdom, but will go and return later? On his return, could Jesus be accepted as a Messiah for those still waiting for one? Better take my thumb out of that. The prayers were closed by a Muslim brother who commented that in Islam there's a belief that the Messiah will return. I need to get better at this. I heard the question asked when he said return, as if the Messiah had already been. So if I understand Islam, Jesus referred to as Isa, I-S-A, in the Quran, is a prophet who will return, as Christians also believe. And all these points, people can correct me. Of course, it depends on the Christian. I'm talking about Christian belief. For, as I've said, and this camera could fall because I'm trying to scroll down. For, as I've said, faith and religions are as diverse as people claiming them. So Jane, I hope that answers your question, and maybe for anybody else that's interested. Now I have to close this. Do you like the backdrop? I do. It's really Christmas lights that's making that look like that, although there is traffic outside. Anyway,